Belisa Vranich is a psychologist, also New York Daily News columnist, writes about love and sex and relationships. She's with us tonight. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I mean, do you think that's true, that there's this edge and all of us are much closer to the edge than we admit?
Oh, yes. We are much closer than we'd like to think we are. And in seeing this case, I think one of the reasons we're so fascinated is because we can identify with her, even though when we replay it in our heads, of course, we'd be a little more subtle and a lot more effective. Well, I've felt sort of crazy when I've been in love, and you've probably had moments too where you feel crazy in love, and we hear about it in songs, crazy in love, and over and over people make monuments, they do paintings, they have entire buildings about love. So can it make you crazy? Can it make you creative? Can it make you do awful things? Yes.
I mean, what makes someone go from being sort of fantasizing about it, revenge on the other woman, to actually becoming a criminal?
Well, if it hits a nerve with them. And with Lisa, what I think happened is that it hit a nerve. Abandonment. She probably had some kind of an issue as a child, as an adolescent, with abandonment. Then she's in a job which is a high-profile job where there's tremendous stigma around stress or mental illness. So if she has any stress, she's not going to talk about it. And then this happens.
What makes people, I mean, I think people sit around and fantasize all the terrible things they do to the other woman, or a romantic rival, or whatever, or other, whatever. But what's the thing that makes somebody fantasize about it, and the other thing that makes somebody act on it?
Desperation. If you really feel cornered, and with Lisa, this person was a chance at a new life for her, and someone was getting in the way. And like we've seen with the brain studies, it's less about emotion and it's more about drive. You don't have as much control over it as you think you do.
Is it normal if you're sitting there plotting revenge on somebody but you don't actually act on it?
I think we've all plotted. I would say yes, plotting is normal. Going out and buying the things and putting them in your trunk and taking that drive, not normal.
The $900-mile drive in the diaper?
Yes.
Not so normal.
Not so normal.
Belisa Vranich, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Nice to see you tonight.
So are you talking about fantasy here?
To me, that is a hint that it's sexual, because romantic does not necessarily mean that it's sexual. So to me, if you don't have romance and you don't have professional, it's hinting on sexual. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they've had sex. It can very well mean that it was hinted at. There's been some flirtation. But somehow her fantasy has been fed.
Are people embarrassed to admit that this is a train wreck of a story and they're being sucked in by it?
It's visual junk food, and people do not want to admit that they actually like seeing it, that they find it hypnotic. So we're wanting to watch it, and we feel glued to every day where new information comes up about her. And we don't want to admit it. It is embarrassing that we actually are entertained by it.
Live from the heart of New York City, it's The Morning Show with Mike and Juliet.
She has to remember 50 is the new 40. She has to remember that the tabloids may look like all these guys are going out with younger women, but if you turn to the marriage section, the engagement section,
You're right.
It's not that way. It's really not that way. So what I would tell her is stop whining, get off your horse, take some initiative, and the internet is a great place.
If you go to the right sites, I think it is, Matt.
Are the biggest population on the internet right now are people her age. 14 million people on internet dating. There has to be men for her there. All the psychological studies show that if you put somebody at a state of arousal that's that high, that much competition, they are going to have emotional outbursts. So yes, we're going to see this over and over and over again. This isn't something that we can reprimand the players and say, hey, be really competitive, be really passionate about the game, but then keep it in a compartment. You're absolutely right. I wouldn't have chosen that therapy for you, Anderson. I have to tell you, you're a pretty cerebral, kind of macho guy. It's going to help a little bit. If you have somebody who's a professional who knows how to sort of guide you along that process, it can work a lot more quickly, and who's not making you sing, who's actually using different therapies that are
so
good
there
for
are many
for
different
you.
kinds of therapies to overcome something
Absolutely,
like this.
yeah, absolutely. That one per se is based in acupressure, and acupressure works for some people. Acupuncture works for some people. Treatment should be therapy and medications, both things together. At the very least, therapy, because at the base of it is emotional pain, interpersonal problems, family conflicts. One of the reasons is that people are seeing that office romance works. 22% of couples that date each other at work actually end up in a long-term relationship or end up getting married. So more people are trying it because they're seeing that it actually works out all right. Those lines between home and work have really gotten blurry, and people are thinking, hey, if I'm working at home, why can't I socialize at work?
This is The Early Show.
One thing people do is that they get comfortable and they think, oh, this is good, our relationship is moving along, I feel like I can be myself, and then the politeness goes away, they don't groom the same way, so say thank you, say please. They pee with the door open.
I mean, come on.
They don't wash the paint.
Men and women think about it differently. For men, saying sorry means you've lost, so you take a point off. You really think about it as a game where you've lost. For women, we just want to think that you understand what we felt.
If you're on the receiving end of this, how do you respond?
Well, you try to not go for the temptation of taking that email and forwarding it to all your friends, because that's sometimes what happens with a nasty email or something, is that you want to share it with everybody else. If you have, let out somebody's secrets, they may just take some of yours because they know some if you've been together in a relationship, and there you go. It gets bigger and bigger and ugly and uglier.
Tit for tat.
Tit for tat.
And it gets real ugly.
If you know you're hot-headed and that you're impulsive that way, other than putting 1-800-Flowers on your speed dial and learning the fine art of apologizing, which is something that we've forgotten how to do, pause, take a relationship time out, take a deep breath, and just think about the consequences. Sleep on it maybe one night, and then learn from your mistakes.
Alone, hopefully.
When a teacher abuses a child, why is that so particularly crushing?
That's someone we trust. If you think about the images that come to your mind when you think teacher, you think learning, you think mentor, they're all positive things. So it's crushing because that's the person that represents an entire institution that's supposed to be about something good.
This is The Early Show.
That fantasy of their wedding is one that a lot of women have.
And so for her to act it out?
For her to act it out might be fun.
Are virtual relationships cheating?
Yes. If you are spending time online that you would spend with your spouse, and if you are falling in love or in lust with that other person, it's cheating. What I would tell a patient of mine is that you're calling this second life. Well, go ahead and have your second life in real life.
We don't want it to happen to us, but when it happens to someone else, we kind of shrug now and go, hey, it's something that happens a lot. I think we're looking at them and saying, it happens so much to your average person, and it's happening with pop culture and politicians. It's something that's across the board. I don't think people are okay with it. I think that they're going to handle it in a different way now. They're going to say, if this happens, it doesn't necessarily mean divorce. If this happens, we can work through it. So it doesn't mean that they're going to just be very laissez-faire and nonchalant about it. It means that they're going to look at it and say, how do we fix this, because we want to be together. They hope that their kids are learning about love in a way that's meaningful, however you define your relationship. It depends on your rules. You need to be truthful. Whatever the truth is, it's more important that you have a happy relationship where you're honest with each other than a monogamous one where you're unhappy.
It is the Big Talker. We brought it to you first, exclusive, shocking details from Rosie O'Donnell's new book, Celebrity Detox. People smacking themselves with hammers to break bones?
I have heard about it, and psychologically it's called Munchausen's. It's a lot like cutting that you see in adolescence, where they hurt themselves because of the emotional pain they feel inside. So yes, I have seen it. She's, hung upside down. She's gone to therapy. She's done a lot of things to change. And we're not going to see a repetition of her neglecting her children. If anything, she's going to be more attentive with them. And that's exactly the point, is that without a mom there, she was not taken care of. And she had to do that in order to get attention.
Weird, huh?
It's hard.
What could that do to a person?
Well, the characters he chose were very stressful, complex characters. So I think that when we think about the combination of drugs that are there, both drugs and medication, you also have to factor in the stress of the roles he was playing and the sort of very, very hard schedule he was working under.
If you had a client dealing with those same issues, would you be concerned for their safety?
Oh, I would definitely be concerned for their safety, especially if there was the possibility of pneumonia. So his immune system being compromised, him having an infection in his lungs, problems with sleeping, and then a combination of all these other things, I would be worried.